gentlemen, Mr. Captain, Lady President, members and guests, you're all very welcome to Warrenpoint Golf Club tonight. Most of you know me, but for those who don't, my name is Rory Thornton, and I am Lady Captain here this year. This privileged position allows me the opportunity to have a charity night, so here we are. My chosen charity tonight is Cruse Bereavement Charity, which offers counselling to those who have been bereaved. I chose this because my honorary Handicap Secretary, Mrs. Pat Best, is chairperson of that organisation. She is, of course, also the mother of Rory. At our committee outing last year in Druids Glen, Pat and I played together, and as we went around and chatted about my plans for the year ahead, I mentioned that I thought it would be a great idea to have Rory at the club some night, to find out how life as an international rugby star really was. Pat agreed and thought it would be a perfect platform from which to raise some money for her charity. Aware of Rory's busy schedule, especially with so many matches at weekends, she couldn't promise anything, but she said she would try, if you pardon the pun, to persuade Rory to fit us into his diary. Well, as you all know, you just can't say no to your mother. And I was delighted when Pat told me in January that she had scored her try and Rory had a date for us in May. A few days later, Rory was named Ireland Rugby Captain, so it was like the perfect conversion, the icing on the cake. So it is a great honour and privilege for me to welcome Mr. Rory Best, Ireland Rugby Captain, here to Warrenpoint Golf Club tonight. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rory, for taking time out to join us. Our main event tonight is the interview which will take place after dinner. In the meantime, some of our juvenile members are going to move around and they're going to sell some rugby stress balls, which Rory will be happy to sign or personalise later on. I know many of you would like to avail of the opportunity to have your picture taken with Rory. So, for this purpose, we have placed some envelopes on your table. And we ask you to place a minimum donation of £5 inside and write your name and email address on them. The envelopes will be collected later on and you will be called in rotation for your photograph after the interview. The money raised will go to Cruse Bereavement Charity. So to hear a little bit more about that, would you please welcome its chairperson, Mrs. Pat Best.
Thank you for all your hard work in relation to this event. Lady Captain, Lady President, Mr. Captain, members and guests. It's great to see everybody here, it really is. I think it's somebody said to me earlier that they thought it was the biggest gathering in Warrenpoint Golf Club for some years. So that's really good, and thank you very much for coming. I just wanted to tell you something about Cruse because not a lot of people have heard about it. Cruse is a national charity which offers support, advice and information to young people and adults when somebody dies. The name Cruse comes from a passage in the Bible about a widow's cruse or jar of oil that never ran out, and this signifies that support and comfort would be given as long as it was needed. Cruse is a relatively new charity operating in Northern Ireland since 1984, with 7 offices across the province. Cruse offers face-to-face, one-to-one, group, telephone and email support. Services are provided by trained bereavement support volunteers and are free as well as confidential. Cruse depends entirely on donations from the public, as well as attracting limited funding from social care boards and the big lottery. The nearest office to here is in Newry, in the Wynn Business Park, and the coordinator, part-time coordinator, is Frances McMahon. She would love to hear from anyone who would be interested in becoming a bereavement support volunteer, because we're always looking for volunteers. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for your generous support tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pat. So, all enjoy your meal now, and we'll be back afterwards with the interview. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Feargal McCormack.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are greatly honoured to have with us here this evening sporting legend and a tremendous ambassador for this region, Rory Best. Rory was born on the 15th of August 1982, married to Jodie with 3 children, Ben, Penny and Richie. And as we all know, 183 times he played for Ulster, scored 90 points and 18 tries. And then, in addition, following on from his brother Simon, captain of Ulster, and then at the start of this year, he made captain for Ireland for the Six Nations Championship. Rory has 94 caps, has scored 40 points, 8 tries for Ireland. He's Ireland's most capped hooker, and he follows in the legendary steps. He's the 3rd most capped Ulster player in the legendary steps of international all-time blitz. Willie John McBride and Mike Gibson is. In addition, as many of you will know, Rory has also played for the British and Irish Lions and he captained them on one occasion. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome again to Rory Best, please. Rory, if we can go back to your early interest in sport and playing rugby, can you recall those early moments and when sport first interested you when you first started to play rugby?
I suppose it started probably in the front lawn of the house. Being the youngest of 3 boys with a wee sister, but at that stage she was far too precious to play rugby. My dad had waited many years for a daughter, so he wasn't going to let her go out on the lawn with us 3 brutes. And probably then, playing out with my dad, my 2 older brothers, my grandfather. Occasionally my uncle Gary would turn up as well and play. And I think if you speak to my 2 older brothers, they spent most of the time huffing rather than playing. But it wasn't easy being quite a bit younger than both of them. But they were the early days, and then playing over in Banbridge. Banbridge Rugby Club have been very good to me right throughout my career. And I suppose since I was 5 or 6, probably went over there and played in the micros they used to call it, in the mini section there. And that was really like when you're such a close family, you tend to just do what your big brothers do. And Simon being the eldest, he played rugby, as did Mark, and that was sort of really from a young age. That's all we knew.
So Banbridge Rugby Club, really, it's a great sense of place and belonging for you. If I'm right, your grandfather Don, your father John, you've already mentioned Gary, Uncle Gary. Craig, I'm told actually Craig, even then, he looked rather trim when he played on the field, but anyway, Craig, and obviously your 2 brothers, Simon and Mark, all played for Banbridge, and indeed, Gary, many years, and your father's still very active, so Banbridge Rugby Club very much a part of the family.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think they're very proud of us to have the association with us, maybe not so much with Craig.
So I borrowed this tie from Craig for tonight too.
But certainly with Dad, Gary, and all the family. And like I say, the early days were mini rugby there, but we also, my grandfather would have loaded us in the car and taken us around. At that stage, both Dad and Gary were playing for the first 15, and we'd have watched them there, or kick rugby ball about at the side, and that was sort of a Saturday afternoon. Mum would have brought us in the morning, and then Dawn would have brought us to wherever Banbridge were playing. At that stage, they were a junior team, and sometimes with whatever hole in the heads, they could find a pitch to play in. It was great crack, and I sort of tended to be at the bottom of the pile, and probably they bullied me a little bit. I think it sort of probably toughened me up a little bit for what eventually was to come.
And it's great that your father is so active still in Banbridge youth teams. And indeed, I see Jodie's father here today. And a little bird told me that he's about to take over president of Armagh Rugby Club again. So I should say we have a young lad here tonight now, Shea O'Brien. He won the Ulster under 18 rugby last week, but he won the Player of the Year. So well done, Shea, for Armagh Rugby Club. So basically, from an early age, to be fair, you were starting to show talent. You were involved in Ulster schools and Ireland schools. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was correct. Sort of when I went through the Banbridge system, up to about under 14s I played, and I suppose it's really that we mentioned my dad there, and he had a lot. He brought a lot of those youth teams in. I think when Simon was going through Points Pass. We sort of started preparing in September for one football match at the end of May, and sort of my dad would be hearing this and going, that's not right. And he brought the mini rugby team into Points Pass Primary School. I'm pretty sure the under 14s as well in Banbridge, he was heavily involved in starting up. But once we sort of left that under 14 system, we went into the grammar school over in Portadown College. So Saturdays were very much like schools rugby, and look, I think it's sort of mentioned earlier that we are three brothers, we're really close, so it also makes us very, very competitive. Anyone that's got older brothers, especially when you're the youngest, you try to emulate what's went before you. And I was very fortunate that the time I came along as a third, Simon already played Ulster schools, Ireland schools, and he sort of, I suppose he made it seem possible. You come from Points Pass and you go and you play for the primary school there with 65 odd pupils we had at a time when we were playing. You just think that rugby's a bit of crack when you play it, and then all of a sudden you start to see that actually it's not just been going down to watch Ireland and the internationals like we would have done as a family. It was achieved by Simon to play at that level at schools rugby internationally, and obviously being competitive, like I say, you sort of feel that that's what you want to emulate. You always want to be as good as you can be against yourself, but it's always nice to have people that have gone before you to give you standards to try to strive to.
And after Portadown College, I think you went to Newcastle University, if I'm right, and you studied agriculture, and you played for the Newcastle Falcons Academy. Share with us, how was it first of all like to go to Newcastle, and then did you miss your mother's cooking?
Look, Newcastle was, I suppose we sort of say that I stayed considerably longer than Mark stayed at the university.
He did 4 weeks, I think I remember saying
that. 4 weeks, but I didn't quite stay as long as Simon did, and only for the fact that Dad met Mum there. We're not sure that he actually went to university at all. So it's sort of a funny one, but Newcastle, look, was it was a bit bittersweet for me. In terms of the university rugby, I had a real ball there. They were some great guys, and it was very much training on Monday, playing on Wednesday for an excuse to go to the bar on the Wednesday evening sort of thing, and spend time with them. And I did originally go into the Falcons Academy over there, sort of straight from school, first year of university, and they brought me in. But in the middle of September, the Ulster under 21 system kicked in, and they wanted me to come home and play for them. And Newcastle were at the start said, yeah, no problem, until I asked to be released for the first camp, but they were like, no, we have a game this weekend, we can't let you go back. And so I suppose being a little bit stubborn as I am, I just said, that's fine lads, thanks for the opportunity, and basically walked out and said I wouldn't play for them again, because ultimately Ulster is where I've always wanted to play, and where I wanted to play at that stage. Plus as well, it did get me home to well, it's definitely
past then a little more frequently.
It got me home a little bit more, and it was, the cooking, definitely my mother's cooking, thankfully not my father's.
Well, interesting, perhaps because your mum obviously was from nearby Middlesbrough originally, and as you've already said, your mum and dad met when they were studying. I was given the benefit of the doubt when they were studying in Newcastle. but very interestingly, from here, not only yourself, but Simon, okay, Mark just for 4 weeks, but Rebecca. And then Uncle Gary claims he was there for a while too, so it was nearly a best academy at Newcastle University.
Yeah, it was, and I think probably because Craig didn't go there, they were actually welcoming the next generation. But it was...
Even got our hands on him too early. So I'm trying to suggest, basically, in 2002 then you returned home to captain the Belfast Harlequins. You had a couple of good years there, and then you got your first contract with Ulster in 2004. And you were starting really to make your name on the international stage. And again, sometimes it goes unnoticed, but you actually had a very successful under-21 career for Ireland. 17 times World Cup in South Africa, again Junior Champions in England. If you don't mind me asking you, who were the type of players you were playing with, sharing the field with then, future stars of the game?
I suppose back then there were a couple of a guy Dennis Leamy who actually we went on an Ireland schools tour, probably incidentally 4 years after Simon had been on an Ireland schools tour to Australia.
Still remember them?
Yeah, they did. And we all, that sort of same group, all went to Australia as schoolboys, and we formed quite a strong bond. But that sort of under-21 team was the real stars were a guy Dennis Leamy, who would become, or is a very good friend of mine. There's a guy Gavin Duffy who actually, when he first left school and went into the academy system, he was playing minor Gaelic football for Mayo, so he was a real talented player. Shane Jennings. There's actually a lot of them went on to play provincial rugby. In fact, with that under-21 team, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 that didn't play provincial, and a lot of them went on to make a couple of caps, but there was probably only, and I think it was probably only really myself and Dennis Leamy that went on to get 50 and onwards caps, which I suppose looking back at the time, was really surprising. There was a lot of very, very talented guys in that squad.
Just out of curiosity, how did you manage to balance your rugby commitments with your study at both school and university?
Very well.
Next to the shortest answer of the evening.
No, I think actually on the study front, it was something that my parents were fairly adamant that I'd always say I would go on to university, and I think when I left Newcastle and went back to play for Harlequins at that time, it was sort of I'd come into the academy, and it was very much the forefront of my mind was playing professional rugby, and I think really they had to keep my nose to the books at the various times when I needed it, because I was fairly easy distracted, and to say rugby was a very big part of my life then. And it also allowed me that in 2002 when I came back and played for Harlequins, it was the first time I'd actually played alongside Simon as well. So that was sort of, that year with Belfast Harlequins was quite a special year, and obviously I was flat out studying too.
And as many people know, not only did you captain Ulster and subsequently Ireland, but Simon actually captained Ulster for many years, but actually he also captained Ireland on an away tour game in Argentina. Mark played for Ireland, if I'm right, under 19s. And that whole thing with the success of Simon and Mark before you, you didn't suffer from any inferiority complex coming through there, no?
I don't think so. I think it was very much that they did pave the way, and like Portadown College, when you go back to the schools days, isn't by any means a giant of schools rugby, and I think I do remember going to various sort of trials and camps in those early days, and you were recognised already as sort of Simon's brother, which, like, when you're not from a big school and you're not competing with the Insts and the Methodies of this world, to have any kind of foot in the door was always a help. I'm not sure, he must have been very good to get a foot in the door that day. But it was all that really did help, and I don't think at any point I ever sort of had an inferiority complex. I was always very proud coming behind them, and to be known as their brothers coming in behind them.
You made your debut for Ulster senior team as a replacement at home to Munster in the Celtic Cup 2005, and you then replaced Simon as captain of the Ulster team in 2007-2008 season, a position you continue to hold today, really a tremendous achievement. Your abilities as a scrummager are renowned, but the role of hooker has to be a very challenging role, and psychologically I suspect difficult to prepare for matches in terms of throwing the ball in. Is it true that you have put a special gadget in the barn at home, and like you use it for practicing the throwing?
Yeah, I think probably on the first bit, the psychological aspect of it was something that I suppose coming up through, I didn't really think a whole lot about, and obviously it sort of come through, and debuts don't really seem to be my strong point. I made my debut for Ulster, and we got well beaten by Munster. When we made my debut for Ireland, we got well beaten by New Zealand. So, and thankfully, other results post that went well, but you don't really think about it. And I remember that season that I made my Ulster debut and played, and then was sort of I played because there was a couple of injuries, and then the injuries came back, and I didn't play again until I think it was in December, and ended up going on a run of maybe 7 or 8 games where I started them all, and all of a sudden I thought, oh, this is easy, this is where I'm meant to be, and I still remember the game, and I know my mum and dad remember because they were there, and it was away to the Dragons over in Rodney Parade, which isn't a particularly nice place to go anyway, if you've ever been to Newport in Wales, and if you haven't, don't. But you sort of go there, and it's quite an intimidating place, and they're a tough team to play against. And it felt at the time, looking back at the videos, it wasn't as bad as I thought at the time, but it felt at the time they didn't win one line out the entire day, and I sort of felt that I probably should have been subbed after about 20 minutes, but the coaches obviously knew that I was a young player and I didn't do too much damage to me, but I think they kept me on for about 45 minutes or something, but I was almost relieved to get off the pitch at that stage, and for the rest of that season then I sort of sat on the bench a bit and maybe got 5 minutes at the end of the games that were won, and it really did, it was a tough challenge to get over, and confidence wise it really knocked me back. And then I was talking to Noel Kilpatrick actually that summer, and his son Richard had been having a little bit of trouble with the golf, and he'd been meeting a psychologist from Sinai, and that summer I met him at home, and we had a couple of really good sessions, and I suppose from that point on I've really put a lot of time and effort into that sort of the mental side of it. A lot of it's just simple like visualization and all that. But
was that the time Mark Elliott, you spoke to Mark Elliott?
That's Mark Elliott, yeah.
And is it true to say that Enda McNulty from South Armagh, who's the sports psychologist of the Irish team, is it true that he encourages the Irish players to video their best moments, and just before they go out onto the field he likes them to replay those?
Yeah, no, it is, and he's actually been very good. He did a lot of work with Leinster in those sort of 2 or 3 years when they were winning everything and beating everybody, and before this last World Cup I spent a lot of time with it. We were at camp a lot. We were effectively away for, the World Cup started in the middle of September. We were really away from the 27th or 28th of June right through. You got weekends and the odd days home, but you were away a lot, so you got a lot of free time, and we'd spend a bit of time with Enda, and like, he's really good. And I think the thing that I always liked about him is, like, I remember going down with the family to watch Armagh winning in Croke Park.
It was a very rare occasion. Go ahead, yeah. I haven't forgotten about it, by the way, but anyway.
But I remember,
they did win once. Kerry stumbled, but yeah,
and I remember him playing, and I think for me, if you're going to take advice from somebody, he maybe doesn't have all the decorations of some of these top psychologists, but this guy has trained to do it, but ultimately he's done it himself on the pitch, and like, for me that was a big thing for me to go and speak to him, and especially whenever I'd seen the game as well, and he was a big help in the summer, and really all he did was just to make sure that you reinforce your good points. Don't worry about your bad points, just keep concentrating on the good points, and realise that, because I think the thing that probably a lot of people don't see within the Ireland squad is that the place is riddled with self-doubt, and you probably don't think it because these are supposed to be the best rugby players on the island, but there are so many people that you just are constantly being scrutinised, and you can't get away from it, and all that does is breed self-doubt. So to get somebody like Enda in there that's just going, look what you've done this, what was your line-out percentage in the Six Nations, what was it here, and just to keep reinforcing that, look, there's a reason that you've played so many times for Ireland, and all that sort of stuff is, it really does help. And like I say, the mental side of it is something that I think that too many players overlook, and there's a reason that I talked about how many really talented players we have in our under 20 team that actually didn't go on to do very much, and it wasn't because they weren't talented. There was an aspect somewhere that was lacking.
but it's probably a good lesson for life too. Focus on the positives. I've been privileged to attend Kingspan Ravenhill Stadium on a number of occasions. The new stadium is fantastic, and I must say it's very family friendly. But I think it's true to say you have a close affinity and indeed a great pride in the Ulster jersey. Would that be fair enough?
Yeah, it is. Look, like I said, even going back to those days at Newcastle, whenever I was sort of given the option of staying with the Falcons and playing maybe 20 games that season versus coming back to Ulster with 3 interprovincial games, there was no doubt in my mind which I was going to pick, and it's been like that ever since. Probably it hit home the most was after the Lions selection in 2013. The next game we had at home was Cardiff, and it was obviously a really hard time. It did feel, the selection was made and nobody knows what the team's going to be until Sky Sports started banging out, here are all the players. And we were training at the time, but I had family sitting at home, my wife was sitting at home, because everyone was saying, oh, Rory's going to go, and she's sitting at home, and suddenly it flashes up and it's in alphabetical order, and I think the first name that flashed up was Dylan Hartley, and she's going, well, I don't think they're going to stick a B after an H, so he's clearly not going.
Thankfully, you found out the referee a few days there, but
that helped. But at that, it felt like almost, because so many people, could almost bank on you going and Saviour going, and Banbridge Rugby Club were so excited about potentially getting somebody named the Lions. You carry all that pressure with you, and then it doesn't happen, and you feel like you've let the entire public down. You feel you've let a lot of people down. I remember going back to play the next week then at the Kingspan Stadium, and just obviously when the name was read out, there was a big roar then, and when I got sort of brought off with about maybe 5 or 10 minutes to go, just the ovation I got when I came off, and it wasn't that I played particularly well, it was just a recognition that regardless of what the Lions selectors thought, that they appreciated everything I'd done, which they obviously sort of reinforced how special Ulster is to me anyway.
And your great leadership skills for Ulster, I think we witnessed them all again on a sad occasion whenever, unfortunately, Nevin Spence, that young prodigy, died so tragically in a farm accident. Did that have a profound impact upon his fellow rugby players? I mean, I remember the stadium afterwards, you spoke very emotionally and very well.
Yeah, look, it was a really tough time, and rugby's great when you have these big highs, and you get to share them with everyone. And obviously the flip side is the lows, that you get to share them with everyone. That makes them slightly easier. That one was particularly hard, because I think it happened to me that particular Saturday that actually Simon, my dad, and I had been out doing a wee bit of stuff together on the farm as well, and you're sort of looking at the similarities there, and it really does scare you. And because he was such a well-liked kid, he was so young, and it was the entire male side of the family wiped out in one accident. And look, it hit everyone within Ulster and the whole entire community. But as a playing squad that are so tight, we spend so many hours together every day, it was really, really tough. And I think we had to use each other to try to get through it. And being one of the older players, one of the more senior players in the group, there are a lot of young guys in there that maybe felt that they couldn't tell you exactly how they're feeling, because you go into our changing room and the last thing you want to be doing is telling everyone your inner feelings, because you seem just you'll get slagged for it, and right away eventually. And it was quite tough making sure that these guys knew that it was all right to talk about this. It was all right. Like, we met on Sunday morning as a squad up at the stadium, and just look, it's all right to cry about this. It's all right, and you mightn't do it today, you mightn't do it tomorrow, you mightn't do it for a week or two, but it's all right to let it out. Don't feel that, especially when we're in this environment together, don't feel you have to be strong. You might need to go home to your family and friends, whatever, and maybe a bit stronger than normal, but here, this is an environment that we share a lot of highs. This just happens to be one of probably the lowest moments that I've ever experienced that we have to share together.
I've just returned home from Galway this afternoon, and I've had the privilege of hearing Paul O'Connell interviewed twice in the last 6 days. And believe it or not, his admiration for you is obvious and amazing. On both occasions, he went out of his way to say how much he admired you. And he said that when he sees you playing for Ulster, obviously not when you're playing against Ulster, but he wants Ulster to win, because he said he knows how passionate you are about the game, how much you put into the game, and how you personally drive your fellow players forward. So I have to say, it was lovely to hear. And he went on to say, by the way, that he thought you were playing the best rugby of your career, and that he hopes you captain Ulster to a European competition success. Obviously, Ulster doing well the last few weeks in the good win against the Ospreys last week. Top 6, I think, now mean during the European Cup next year. Leinster, next Friday night. How do you feel about the Pro 12 semi-final?
Look, it's going to be very tough. Look, we've had going into that Connacht game, whatever it was 4 games ago now. I think it was about 6 or 7 weeks ago. We knew from that Connacht game on, effectively it was a knockout competition for us. We couldn't afford to drop any points. If we dropped any points in the position we were in, we wouldn't make the top 4, and it would be a scramble to make the top 6. And look, I think we've got progressively better as the competitions went on, and probably the last 2 performances especially have been particularly pleasing. But the Leinster are renowned for being unbelievably hard to beat in knockout competition, so it's going to be tough for us. But I do think it's probably the first time, certainly that I've been playing for Ulster, and maybe ever, that we'll go down to Dublin and they will be as worried about us as we are about them. I think Leinster always think over us that, especially at home, if they turn up and play well, it doesn't matter what we do, that they won't beat us. I think now they're sort of looking at us a bit more and going, well, if these boys actually turn it on, it's going to be a really close game. So with that little bit of pressure, if we can start well and put it back on them, it'll be a close game, but it is going to be a really tough game.
I heard Ulster's 4,500 tickets sold out within 2 hours.
Yep, they did. Look,
you people here heading down, I think, talking from earlier on there.
Look, there's massive support. It's 2 hours, and I think now Leinster have, I think it's 18,000, so they have 4,000, so they've sent a few of their 14,000 back up the road as well that they couldn't get sold. So look, the one thing we get is massive support, and look, even the 4,000 there, we know they'll make a lot of noise. So you made your international debut for Ireland as a replacement against the All Blacks Lansdowne Road, November 2005. You made your first start against the Springboks 2006. Indeed, you've been involved in the national side ever since. What are your recollections of your first cap and your first start for Ireland? I suppose there's a couple of things. Well, firstly, obviously the build up to it and everything, and be involved in an Ireland team, and then to come on, Simon was on the bench and he'd come on probably about 10 minutes before me, and then just to come on straight into a scrum beside him at the old Lansdowne Road was against New Zealand, was something that you can't really script. It was really, really special, and obviously the fact that we were behind by about 40 points at that stage, we forget all about that, but it was a really, really special moment, and very proud moment for Mum and Dad as well. Yeah, 2 best in the field the same day against the All Blacks. Yeah, I'm sure Mum was very proud anyway. Your dad was analysing the performance a bit more? He was probably emotional, staring at what he was doing. But it was, it was a very proud moment for the family, and I think to be able to share that with a brother is something that I think there's not very many brothers in history have played together for Ireland. So to be able to share that moment with my brother was very, very special. Indeed, and initially you were involved really in sharing the number 2 shirt with Jerry Flannery. How did you find that experience? Type of, conscious that neither of you probably were playing a full game, but you were sharing it. Yeah, look, it was. I suppose at the start, when I first came in, he played all the rugby, and I really didn't get very many games at all. And look, it was something that I then had to look at and sort of say why, and look, I wasn't I probably thought at the time it was, but I sort of quickly realised that it wasn't sort of fit enough, I wasn't in good enough shape. And I do remember, obviously Neil Francis wouldn't be a very popular name in our household anyway, but I remember there was a comment he'd written about after the New Zealand game that he said that it showed how bad Irish rugby had become when Rory Best wandered on to win his first cap, which was...
He's still writing rubbish, but anyway.
But, you sort of get that, and you look at it and you go, right, well look, maybe if this is the opinion, then well, why don't we try to change the opinion? And look, I worked very hard to get in better shape, to get fitter, to try and get stronger, and it went from sort of never getting on the pitch to getting always at 20 minutes. But the big one was he got injured and I got in ahead of him, and I just said to myself, look, I'm going to train this summer and make sure that I'll get my chance to take it, and then he can do it every month after that.
I think to be fair, you're recognised as the undisputed first choice hooker then in 2011 Rugby World Cup. Obviously that being your second World Cup, the 2007 France, and the scare Simon gave us at that time, and then made a great recovery. And I think you were probably undoubtedly Ireland's best player in the 2015 World Cup. I must say, as a spectator, I was over at the Italy game with my son Rory, and I thought the atmosphere in the Olympic Stadium was absolutely fantastic. And it's fair to say, okay, very sad to see the end of Paul O'Connor's career that day, but just the whole Irish atmosphere that day was absolutely unbelievable. 2015 World Cup, perhaps, well, memorable, but as a result of injuries, it was one that perhaps could have been unbelievably maybe historic for all time. Looking back, what do you think of the 2015 World Cup?
I think it's been unbelievably frustrating, and I think that has been the knock. Obviously we're never going to say it in the press and the media that after that World Cup that there was a hangover in Irish rugby. There's no doubt. Obviously in the 2011 World Cup we lost in the same stage, we lost to Wales, but we didn't play that well that day. We still could have maybe won it, but we didn't play well, we didn't deserve.
And it's fair to say you weren't playing that well in the run-up to the 2011, but 2015 was different.
It was different. We're coming off the back of back-to-back championships, and we really felt that this was the moment, and the way we built into it, and even the Italy game, the way we played the second half versus the first half, and then the France game, we basically destroyed them for 80 minutes, near enough. And then to pick up those injuries and to sort of have to then go, oh no, we're a squad, we build a squad, all this, that, the other. But ultimately, you take out...
They were key players.
Yeah, you take out your captain and your main line-out caller, you take out one of your main line-out jumpers in Pete O'Mahony, you take out your main ball carrier, Sean O'Brien, your main playmaker, Johnny Sexton, your main defensive guy, Jared Payne, and then you lose Tommy Bowe after about 13 minutes. We don't have that sort of depth anyway, but I think if you take that core of New Zealand, you take out Retallick, Reid, McCaw, Carter out of the middle of their team, it's a big hole to fill. And I think the most frustrating thing is that we did our best in the first sort of 20 or 30 minutes to not want to play another game in the World Cup, and then after that we actually went, look, why don't we just have a go at this and see what happens, and to get back so close to it with the team we had on the pitch.
With tremendous character, to be fair.
Yeah, and we had an opportunity at, I think it was 23-20 to go to 23-all, and look, you'd never sort of, you hang your hat on these small moments and margins. That's what it is in international rugby, but you never have a go at place kickers. The same as, if we miss a line out, these are the small things, and as a team you make up for it. But you still look back and go at 23-20 and talking.
And having come back from where you were,
and talking to the Argentinian captain afterwards, he said that he knows his players, and the Argentinians can be temperamental enough. And he said at 23-20, he said, if you'd go into 23-all, our boys were gone.
And you had a great
but then they scored next, and then they never looked back. And I think that has been the most frustrating thing, the ifs, buts, and maybes, that it sort of nearly fell out of our control a little bit because of the injuries, and that has definitely been a subsequent knock-on effect into the European competition and a bit into the Six Nations with the injuries, but also the sort of Ireland after the France game. Ireland rugby as an entire nation was on a high, yet after that Argentinian game it felt like the whole place was on a real low after it, and the provinces struggled, the national team struggled, but now with 2 wins at the end of the Six Nations, and now you look at the provinces that have come back strong, 3 in the top 4 and 4 in the top 6. You know, I think Irish rugby has hopefully come out the other side.
I think it's fair to say there's a maturity, I think, in the Irish rugby public, which certainly were far more favourable after the 2015 World Cup than they were after 2011 or even 2007. Just out of curiosity, how would you contrast the coaching styles of Eddie O'Sullivan, Declan Kidney and Joe Smith?
Look, I think the thing with Eddie O'Sullivan was, in my opinion, he was a very, very good coach, and he did a lot of things with the Ireland team. You know, he just didn't get across the line to that Grand Slam. He did, like, it became under him where if you lost a game, it was like, oh, we're only playing for the Triple Crown now.
You were competing at the top of it.
Yeah, and the problem he had was he didn't surround himself with the best coaches in the world. You know, you're dealing at international level, and he did control a lot of stuff. But whenever things started to get a little bit shaky and he needed to look around for help, he was looking around and not getting enough help, and that ultimately became his downfall, because he then had to try to do more himself and took more on. Then with Declan, and sort of, I think it was Paul O'Connell that he phoned to say, look, I've been offered the Ireland job, and Paul, who'd worked under a bit of Munster, went, yeah, Decky, I think it's a great opportunity, you should take it, but if you want my advice, you should go and get some very good coaches to surround you. And that's not to say that Declan's not a very good coach, but probably rugby coaching wouldn't be the strongest suit in his armour. He is a very, very good motivational speaker. He's a very good manager. Yeah, and he got in, like, that's when Les Kiss came in, Gert Small from South Africa. So he got in quality coaches around him. He knew his weaknesses, which is a big thing to be able to go to the national stage and realise that, look, you know, I can't do this all myself. And he built something there that was really good. The problem was Gert got sick, we lost the attack coach, and then Decky kind of thought that, oh, we could fill the void with who we've got here, and he tried to do what Decky does and empower the people around him when it was really a skeleton crew. And again, at that level, if you don't have adequate resources, you're going to be found out, and that's what happened to Decky. But Joe Schmidt is he's very, very good, and it's funny, I remember chatting to Paulie sort of maybe it was after the autumn or halfway through the first championship that Joe was involved in, and we both kind of agreed that we're sitting there going, every meeting you sit in, you go, is it any wonder those dickheads from Leinster beat us every single time? Because he just works out every single strength, weakness and everything, and he just, if you don't toe the line, and if you don't research, if you don't know your stuff, if you don't do stuff that helps a team, he'll just not pick you. And you can see it with, you know, there's he comes into a lot of criticism with his selections, but ultimately he selects people he trusts, and he doesn't select people he doesn't trust, and that's the bottom line. He thinks at this level that is as important as, because everyone's talented, but it's that little bit where whenever push comes to shove, that you know that this guy's going to do the right thing. And he shows his clips all the time of, I think there was the Super Bowl, was it 2 years ago, where the guy, instead of doing his job, he thought he'd be the hero and tried to catch the ball, and he dropped it. They picked it up and ended up losing a Super Bowl that they should have won. And you know, he sort of says that is the sort of stuff that, and that's just a prime example of stuff that he just won't tolerate.
You know. Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, that's why he's so much wanted around the world, and thankfully he stayed with Ireland. 24th of February 2007 was a very special day, I must say, for me personally. Also, I think in terms of sporting nostalgia on the island of Ireland, I was greatly privileged to be in Croke Park that day with my family. The day that you gained your 10th cap. Ireland beat England in the Six Nations. 26-3, if I'm right. And it's fair to say it was probably an unbelievable and perhaps never to be repeated atmosphere in terms of sporting Ireland. What are your recollections of Croke Park that day?
That was it was a very, very emotional game. I think that was our second ever game there because we played France.
France, the first game.
Yeah.
But you were lucky enough to.
Yeah, we
just get pumped, didn't you?
We lost that.
Sorry, you just lost in the last.
Yeah, the last play. You know, we sort of had that one by the scruff of the neck and ended up losing it. But then the England game was just probably the couple of memories you have of that is just after the anthems. You know, there's always a bit of a roar after the anthems, then it dies down a bit. And just as it died down, I think the president, she goes to find her seat, which isn't her own seat, but of course this is all on camera on the big screen, and everyone sees it, and there was just a big roar went up, just a bit of a sarcastic roar, but the roar that went up would have lifted the roof off, and I just remember standing in a huddle waiting, because we obviously can't do anything until she's in her seat, and it just, everyone was just there, and you just look around and everyone was just focused on the one task, and that was winning that game. That game was more special to so many people as an entire island than any other game probably Irish rugby's ever played in, and it really was just the atmosphere and everything, and then the start we got, and we just kept going at them and going at them and going at them, and they really had no answer for it.
An amazing day. I'm conscious that your Roll of Honour with Ireland obviously includes two triple crowns, 2007, 2009, 3 Six Nations Championships, 2009, 2014 and 2015, and then the fantastic Grand Slam in 2009. What's your memories of that historic Grand Slam campaign?
Look, it was a bit frustrating because I'd been, obviously the 2 years previous I'd been starting, and then we changed coaches and Declan had come in, and he had went for jury, and it was always you nearly set your clock back on the 60-minute mark that I'd come on. So it was a bit frustrating from that, and it's a funny one, even though it started the Scotland game. When you win those and you don't start and you're competitive and you're used to starting, you don't really feel as part of it. Now that day in Cardiff, in middle end of March, was was an unbelievable.
You were relieved when the kick didn't go with the bar out in Wales.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was sort of one of those that you sort of, I suppose, you're a little bit sheltered to what exactly it means. Because I was reasonably young, and to win that and to see someone like Paul O'Connell, I remember he was sort of I was one of the first people that he came up to, because whenever Jordy Murphy had caught the ball on the post and hacked it into the stand, the whistle goes and O'Connell takes off. I don't know if anyone's seen the video, but he takes off across the pitch, shouting, screaming, roaring, and I was the first he came to, and he jumped up on me, nearly knocked me over. But it's only afterwards you sort of think back and you go, this guy went to go on to captain the Lions that year. He played the Lions 4 years previous. He'd won European Cups, he'd won Triple Crowns with Ireland. He'd done everything. But this just meant so much more to him, and that was sort of the feeling across the board. And probably looking back, I would say that the 2 championship wins for me probably meant more to me, because I started every game, and I felt a lot more a part of it. And they were tough, especially the one to go to France. And sometimes the great thing with Irish support, but sometimes the not so great thing is that, like, once you go on a road, they think there's nothing you can do, which is is brilliant, but it puts more pressure on you. I remember going to France and everyone's going, "Oh, the great thing is we don't have to rack up points here; we just have to win. That's going to be no problem." A record in France wouldn't be fantastic, so I had no problem. And that was an unbelievable game to be a part of.
So, although you had captained Ireland previously on with the touring team to North America in 2009, and again in 2012 once Paul O'Connell got injured in the Six Nations, how did you feel when Joe Smith announced that you were the unanimous choice of both the coaching staff and the playing staff to become the captain for this year's Six Nations Championship, following, as you've said already, really in the footsteps of Paul O'Connell and Brian O'Driscoll? Yeah,
it was. I sort of didn't really. I know, like, everyone and a lot of people I'd spoken to were going, "Oh, yeah, you're a shoo-in, you're whatever." But I really didn't think that he was going to change it. Paulie got injured in the World Cup, and Jamie stepped in, all those other times. So I was sort of fairly happy in my role within that, and that he was going to take it. But when the phone call came through, and he basically said, "Look, sorry for ringing you so late, but I've had to meet the other two, but yours hopefully will be a lot nicer conversation to have than the one with them." And he said, "Look, we'd be delighted if you would captain Ireland at Six Nations. You know, I'll never pressure you to do it, but you know, we had a vote as a player group, and the management had sat down, and he said, look, it was fairly unanimous that you were the choice if you want to do it." So of course I sort of said, yeah, no problem. And probably the hardest thing was that was sort of middle of January. That was quite early on. Was trying to keep it quiet. And like I had mates texting me going, look, you know, what would you say to me if I told you I was going to put £100 on you to be captain? That's it's a bit like birth the donkey do nothing. Yeah, absolutely. I said, I'm not getting involved in any of this, you know, yourself. And but okay, it was a fantastic honour, and I suppose probably for me the biggest one was just the amount of support that I got from right across the island. You know, obviously you always get support from within Ulster, but to get it from right across all the other provinces, and then for agents and points past to put up signs about me and stuff like that, you know, it was just, look, it was really special, the support that I got from everyone. And obviously, when you get it from your local community above anyone, who's probably spent most of my life slagging me off, and now they're putting up signs about me, is slagging me off in a nice way, I hope. It was very special, not just for me, but for my entire family.
You've referred to Simon and Mark before, and you know, Simon obviously a very distinguished international career as a prop forward. I'm not sure too many people know this, but I'm going to say it today anyway. I think that you and Simon are the first brothers to captain both Ulster and Ireland. I actually might even suggest you're the first brothers to actually ever captain Ireland. So there you go, the best family points back. Am I right?
Well, yeah.
Anybody dispute that fact?
Well, look, it's your birthday, Feargal, so
Oh, Rory. I have to change the question after that. However, like, looking back on 2016, I mean, due to injuries, you said, and it was obviously at the very start of the season recognised as a season of transition. And let's be fair, you were very lucky in Paris. With the 2 wins at the end of the season, happy enough?
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I think if we had got the same sequence of or the same combination of results and finished third, yeah, if we had started with 2 wins, got a draw, and finished with 2 losses, the world would have ended. You know, it would have been Ireland or no good. You know, we're never going to do anything. Yet the way it worked out to finish with those 2 big wins, everyone came off the back of that going, you know, we get a couple of players back here, we'll go to South Africa and we'll win all around us, which is going to be tough, but you know, we firmly believe we can go there, make history and win a test match, and obviously we're aiming for a test series there, but it gave us renewed hope. But look, it was a really tough start, and I think the way we played against Wales and the sort of commitment we showed and the style of rugby.
Perhaps unlucky not to win the match.
Yeah,
not going to get drawn in, but unlucky not to win it. Yeah.
At 13 points up, you know, we sort of felt that we're disappointed not to have won it. But when we slipped back to 16-13, I think we showed a lot of character to come back and get a draw out of that. And certainly, talking to the Welsh boys afterwards, you know, it did feel more like a win for us than it did for them, because of the amount of injuries we had. But when you look at, in hindsight, at the championship, definitely the France game is the one that we just didn't really perform, and I think the goalie, you know,
you were not going to any other sport, people might have said they're referee, got a few calls wrong, we're not going to that. Yeah. Am I right in my understanding that when you become captain or vice captain of the Ireland team on tour, you get a room of your own? I think I'm also right. A wee bird told me in Galway today that you were the joker in the pack. So if I put all that together, is there any little stories you'd like to share with us with the roommates, or what, some of the jokes you did to people?
Well, I actually I've sort of had a room of my own for a while now, because I used to room all the time with Dennis Leamy, and then he retired, and I kind of was sort of moved from one to the other for a while, and I didn't really have a fixed roommate, and thankfully in the last few years they've given me a room of my own anyway. Look, there's a good camaraderie in the squad, and we have a good bit of crack, and normally, like, I wouldn't talk about any of the players and what they get up to, but our bagman, Rala, who just recently retired, he generally was, if he got bored at all, he bore the brunt of it. You know, like during the World Cup, he would leave his rooms, he'd go, he wouldn't look after, so everyone goes to his room sort of the night before the game to collect your match shorts and match socks for the next day. So during the World Cup, there's games going on TV all the time, so Rala nips out and goes, lads, he wouldn't look after the shop just for a minute there when I go down for a smoke. No problem. So when he came back, boys had sellotaped iPods to the roof that turned the music up full tilt in the room, but put the iPod or the iPhone to the roof. They got us bed, and we'd thrown everything off it except the base, and we put the sofa on top of that, and we're sitting up on that watching the TV. Another time he has this trolley that he's everywhere, that he loads his drinks trolley and all. You know, takes all the equipment everywhere in this. We cornered him one day. Now this guy is reasonably old, but we cornered him one day, and we got sort of plastic wrap, and wrapped this around him. Sort of basically left his underpants on, but pulled the tracksuit bottoms down. Fired him on fired him on the trolley, put him into the lift, and put him down into the lobby where there's a pre-match function going on in the lobby area. So just those sort of little bits and pieces.
He knew you were around anyway, and you being the joker in the pack, were always in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Perhaps you give us an insight into how the Irish team prepare for their matches and what they do at training camp, etc.
We'll train, so we nearly always play on a Saturday. So our training week we'll meet Sunday night, we usually have a bit of a meeting, and just to sort of lay out the plan for the week, and then we'll train Monday morning. Will be units meetings and in the gym. Then we train on the pitch on Monday afternoon. A lot of attack stuff, you know, looking ahead to whoever we're playing to go, look, these attacks will work, this attack will work, and we run through it. And then Tuesday morning we'll train again, we'll name the team usually, just to us, and then we'll go through defence, a bit more attack, and then we'll do gym, and we actually get home on a Tuesday afternoon, or you get the option to disperse. You know, some of the boys from Cork and Limerick, they'll stay in, but most of the boys will go home, and you come in again Wednesday night, and we'll meet as a player group, and then we just do a walk through in our own, and then just train Thursday. Friday is really, really light. It's just go to the stadium, a bit of a walk around, throw the ball about, and after that, at lunchtime on Friday, it's like the longest 24-ish hours of your life, because you're just counting down to this big game. And that's to say, you know, when you get 23 or 32 or 31 at the World Cup, boys together, and they have this 24-hour period where there's so much nervous tension, and everyone's a bit giddy, and it's just taking forever. That's when all that sort of crack happens. But like, that is really a long time when you're waiting to play a massive game, but that would be the general run of the week. We train very hard Monday, Tuesday, and then just taper everything off with the day off on Wednesday, and just taper down then to get ready to ultimately perform on Saturday.
And the Six Nations itself is a very tight programme of fixtures. How do you and the players recover between games?
Well, generally we sort of kind of play the two games back to back at the start, and then you get the week off where you'll train for 2 or 3 days in the middle of that. Then you get the full weekend or a long weekend off. Then one game, and the same you'll do the same again. And then the last 2 games are just, it's kind of batten down the hatches and try to keep as many people on the pitch as you can. You're always going to have a knock or a niggle somewhere, and it's just trying to play through that and try to perform as best you can, because by the end of the Six Nations your body's pretty much battered black and blue, because it is a fairly intensive period. But in the middle of that, you know, we will have little periods where we'll relax a wee bit and we'll enjoy each other's company.
Is it true that perhaps, careful here now, but
I don't like the way you started with it. Is it true? No, probably not true, no.
One of the defining moments of your international career occurred during Ireland's test game against New Zealand in 2006 summer tour, when you did not actually play. As I understand it, with about 20 minutes to go, you were asked to get ready, go down along still see you on TV, I think, actually running in the shorts, tracksuit beside you, but actually you didn't get on, and if I'm right now, O'Donovan was then the forwards coach, and after the game, he came up and he said to you, sorry Rory, but we didn't really plan to put you on, we got the wrong best, it was actually Neil Best, the flanker.
That's right, yeah.
And am I right in saying, let me take this further because I think this is actually a very significant point, it's right. Am I right in saying that, I wouldn't say humiliating, but you did a lot of thinking after that and you decided that, I think you're very hard on yourself because I don't think we'd share this, but you decided maybe you weren't the fastest and that maybe you weren't the strongest. So if you were going to differentiate yourself going forward, you wanted to become the fittest. And I think it's fair to say that had a transforming time in your career in your own mind, sharing with the discipline of how then, because you're now recognised, I think it's not disputed anymore, that you're actually one of the fittest players in the Irish camp. So how did you get the discipline to do that? How did you do it?
Yeah, like that story is true. It was 20 minutes to go, called to go, because I knew Jerry who had started was actually sick anyway, so it wasn't, even though I hadn't come on a lot at that time, I sort of thought, it wasn't surprising. He's obviously sick, he's flagging here. So for 20 minutes I basically stood waiting to go on the pitch. And when you look back in hindsight now, no one had the wit to come over to me and say, look, actually don't mean you go and put your tracksuit on, it's bound to be freezing there, son. But I was there, and then after the game I would have been less annoyed if he'd said nothing and just sort of tried to brush it under the carpet. But it did annoy me, and I was sort of there going like why am I not deemed good enough to get on the pitch in a game that, it wasn't like we were losing by a point or two. We were only maybe 10 or 11 points behind, but we're more than the score behind, and that's when I sort of went, right, well, look, we're going to have to work on something. And actually, that next season, I sort of went off drink for the year just to get myself fit, and sort of went, look, let's see what way that takes you. And it probably did change my view on how you go about preparing for things. And I think before that, probably my dad might disagree. I'll be very surprised, but that
he wasn't the source of the story, by the way, just in case.
Every weekend was sort of the rugby was an excuse to go out and enjoy the crack afterwards. In that first season with Ulster, and that was sort of the way I saw it. But after that, going that season without really taking very much, it was sort of, look, I understand that it's an important part, and I enjoy the crack as much as anyone, but I think the difference in a Monday morning, if you've sort of tried to recover well and properly, is actually get stuff done on the Monday. And now I take a different view on it, and that when there's a team social happening, I'll be in the middle of it by all means, but at the same time I try to do it a lot less than maybe I would have back then, and that had a knock-on effect with that. But I did train harder, and I did sort of set myself a goal to be, unfortunately, I'm the best, so I'm never going to be quick. Couldn't get my mum's genes, which was sort of hurdlers and stuff like that. 400-metre hurdler she was.
Not sure she's too fast for the golf course.
Remember
how it? Is that right? She doesn't understand when somebody's behind her, but anyway, go ahead.
But
I greatly apologise. All those lady golfers would never hold any man back.
Maybe I should open the floor to question for Feargal here.
Rugby's an easy topic now, Rory.
I thought it was bad enough about your birthday. But no, I was never that fast. I'm not a sprinter by any stretch of the imagination. So I just thought, right.
How will your discipline you leading at?
But the big thing for me was then, well, why not be fitter and try to do a bit more homework and try to be mentally as switched on as I can, and try to maybe get, okay, I might be able to run from A to B as quick as anyone, but if I can see the quickest way to get there while someone is running all over the place, I'll get there before them, was sort of the way I looked at it. And I just worked really hard on that side of things, and I think thankfully it's paid dividends for me.
It sure has. You referred earlier to following the initial disappointment, not being selected, but then subsequently being called up to the British and Irish Lions Tour of 2013 before actually they left. you went on actually to captain them on one of the games. What's your highs and lows from the 2013 Lions tour?
I would say the highs probably revolved around the pub in the last 3 days after the last test, when we all had a bit of crack together, and probably the lows was everything from before that point to the point when I wasn't in the initial squad. No, look, it wasn't that bad, but look, it was really, you know, again, I talked a lot about the mental side of things, but I think looking back on it now, I never really got over the initial disappointment of the selection. I went there, I didn't think it at the time, but I went there feeling slightly inferior to everyone else that was picked on the initial squad. And like, it is hard to sort of, no matter how many times you tell yourself you deserve to be here, when you weren't picked, it's sort of hard to get yourself around to that. And then to be given the greatest honour of captaining them, and then to see that the squad at 2A and others on it, which were boys that were either playing in Japan that had retired 2 years previous, or were on their way from South America across from an England tour to the tour in the Lions, and that team really felt like a team that was thrown together to make sure that the 15 or 20 that he wanted to play in the test match didn't get hurt. And that was, like, that to me was frustrating, you know, because for some of the boys that were there, that was a chance to try to do something.
Trying to improve into the test panel.
And then to lose that, and probably the way I played as well. But, you know, it wasn't just that game. I really felt I didn't play well at all that whole tour, and it was a frustrating time. And my wife and the 2 kids that was then travelled out with my parents, and I think all of the family at various times. I think Simon was on the ground for 5 days for it, maybe a wee bit more, but he wasn't there for very long. But he had also come out, and, you know, all of those were great moments, you know, to be able to play for the Lions at any shape or form in front of your family and that. But the whole thing was just tinged with a bit of, it was geared around picking the perceived best 15 to get them ready, which was frustrating. And I think it'll always be, what's something that should be a highlight will always be tinged with a bit of disappointment for me. But look, ultimately, I'll be able to look back in years to come and say that I captained Ireland, that I was part of a winning series. And, you know, obviously as the years go by, people forget that the only game they lost, or the only game apart from the test they lost on that tour, was the game I captained. You know, we'll sweep that one under the carpet. You know, I was part of a series. I captained a series-winning Lions tour, was what I'd say. And look, my son Ben, the eldest, you know, he's 5, and he still, you know, he was asked at school the other day to bring in his most prized possession, and he brought in the sort of the cuddly Lions toy that my mother-in-law bought him after I was called up when Hartley got suspended. You know, so things like that, you know, like, it's really special to him, and the memorabilia and the stuff and the memories I have from the lads and stuff does still make it really special. I think probably what frustrates me is the way I played personally.
Well, I suppose before Gavin wasn't totally flavour of the month in Ireland either. I'm conscious that you missed the entire 2009-2010 season due to injury on the chronic disc problem, and also on the 24th of September 2013 in that very exciting and indeed agonising test game against New Zealand in the Aviva, when perhaps a kick that maybe may have gone over Ireland may have headed out to beat the All Blacks. But you played that game after scoring a good try. You played on with a broken arm. How difficult was it not to be in the playing field after those injuries? And equally, how difficult did you find it to get back to full fitness?
Injuries are unfortunately part and parcel, but they're also incredibly frustrating. That disc problem was so strange. You know, that I signed off the previous June, fully fit. You sign off the end of the season to say I'm not carrying any injuries, whatever. But by the time I sort of came back, that was in June. I then didn't play again until the following January, and I'd had 5 stitches, 6 staples, and a major neck surgery. The stitches and staples weren't rugby related in any stretch or form, and nothing to do with the neck, but that'll be a story for maybe another day. But the neck injury was so innocuous. It was actually over at a wedding, a good friend of mine, and the next day we're getting ready to leave. I jumped in the shower, and as I turned to go out, just whatever way I turned, just something went bang like that, and I dropped out backwards, so I had to crawl myself into the room. Eventually got sort of into the car at home, but I spent the week basically lying on our wooden floor at home with a towel rolled up and like a cylinder between my shoulder blades, and the only place I could really get comfort was to put my head down and about here somewhere. So they couldn't get me into the scanner until I could sit still for long enough to be scanned. And then they said, look, there's a bulging disc there, but we want to give it a bit of time. So this was sort of early July, give it a bit of time. A couple of scans later, at the end of August, they said, look, the only way to fix this, we think, is an operation. You know, it's nothing, it sounds major, but we have to tell you just all that can go wrong, but you know, it shouldn't. And they give you all the odds that it won't go wrong and stuff, but it sort of seemed, they said it'd be a couple of hours, so that was fine. And to be honest, I spent most of my time sort of trying to console my wife and convince her that it's going to be all right. You know, it was something that never really occurred to me that I wouldn't play again, even though they said, look, this is major and you mightn't play again. And so I was supposed to be in for about 2 or 3 hours, and Jodie was there. I went down and I didn't appear for about, I think it was 9 hours later. I came back up into the room. So she had heard nothing and sort of didn't know, and the surgeon eventually comes up and sort of says, look, you know, we just had to do a little bit more than we thought, but you know, it should be fixed now. It was only when I come back and played that he said, to be honest, when we went in, the thing was a bit of a mess, and we had to take out basically as much as we could, but still give you a chance to go back. The thing had prolapsed and it was sort of all over the place, but the whole way through that, it was just never sort of occurred to me that I wouldn't play again. It was always right. You know, the first question was, they said, look, the season will probably be over. And I was sort of thinking, this is only August, how can the season be over? And I said, right, well, that's fine. Season over. What would be the best case scenario? So I said, look, people have come back from this in 6 months. So I went, right, okay. So then I went away and said to Jodie, I said, look, 5 months' time is January, which is just before the Six Nations. I think I'd like to try and get back for that. So she kind of looked at it, right, sure you will. But that was my target, to get back, and I sort of really pushed myself hard. But there was a couple of times in that, whenever we talked a bit about the fitness and stuff, and how I kind of prided myself on that at this stage. But when you're running, I was taking up the hills in Barnstamain and Belfast, and running up those in November into an icy gale with basically waterlogged underfootings. There was times when I nearly was just going, look, Johnny Davis is our fitness coach and he's brilliant, and I was going to, look, just why don't we just sign this off and say that I can't play anymore, because this was just, it was too much, and it nearly breaks you. But you get through those, and always in the back of your head you're going, okay, I want to get back and play, I want to get back and play. And I actually was probably it was a very proud moment for me, because I got back, and the only game that was on for Ulster was Europe, and I wasn't registered for Europe because they expected me to be out, but I ended up playing for Banbridge against Barn Hall, which I hadn't played. It was actually a club that, as a professional rugby player, I had never played for, because I come back from Newcastle and went to Belfast Harlequins, and it was a really proud moment for me actually to be able to pull on a Banbridge shirt, and I think there's a fairly decent crowd there, and I played 50 odd minutes for Banbridge against Barn Hall. Then the next week I played 40 minutes for Ireland against England, and then the following week I played, I think it was 35 minutes for Ireland against Italy at Croke Park. So it was a fairly sort of steep climb from Banbridge to 2 weeks later playing for Ireland. But you know, I felt fairly, it was just something in my head. I said, look, and for me, when you're injured, you give yourself a goal, and you then try to make that goal a little bit more unrealistic, and you fight like hell to try to achieve it.
So a great message for all our young people: perseverance, keep at it, determination. I know your wife, Jodie, and your 3 lovely children, Ben.
Don't know the kids then, you're saying they're lovely.
Mother-in-law and mother. Ben, Penny and Richie have been a great source of strength and support to you over the years. Also your passion interest in Aberdeen Angus cattle farming has been important to you. I mean, agriculture and farming is going through difficult times. Agriculture has always been your blood. Why did you choose it, and more importantly, where do you see the challenges going forward?
Look, it's obviously growing up on the farm. You know, Dad was a farmer. His father before him was an auctioneer, but he bought out of the land, and then Dad.
You every piece of land and within 59 a year anyway, go ahead.
Well, funny, Dad and Gary then tried to farm it together, but Dad being a bit of an obnoxious brute, Gary couldn't work with him. So Gary then went on to the auction.
I said Gary maybe didn't like the early hours. Go ahead. Sorry, Gary.
But that's something that's been in the family, and ever since Simon and I were no age, we were always out on the farm. Mark, on the other hand, he definitely didn't like the early hours. He had preferred to lie.
Not all accountants don't like early hours.
He preferred. He had been big into sports. He was cricket and golf during the summer. But look, it's just something that I've always loved doing. And it was the neck injury in 2009 that it did. Like, I never really would admit it too much, but it did occur to me at the time that I mightn't play again, and that this is grand rugby, but like, what else do I have? I have nothing to show for it, bar obviously the internationals and all that, but that unfortunately wasn't going to put food on the table. So that's whenever I started to went to Dad and said, look, what about starting to buy some cattle together, to at least if I don't play again, to have something that I've started. If I do play again, it's something to build on, that when I retire might be worth going into full time, might be just worth keeping as a part time. And that's where they really started, because Dad has always had a love for cattle. A lot of the times when he's calving the cows and I'm away at the Six Nations, he says he hates them, but I know he's going to.
A little bird told me in the lovely weather of Wednesday morning, you took yourself off nice and early with two of these great Aberdeen Angus cattle to Balmoral show and paraded them. How did you get on?
It was the weather was brilliant. Yeah, look, it was a tough competition. There were two big classes. I'll really leave it at that. I thought they were looking well.
So the diet of professional rugby players changed massively over the last decade or so. Would you mind telling us what makes up your diet?
Look, it's a lot of lean meats. Obviously being
Aberdeen Angus.
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously being from a part beef farm, red meat makes up quite a bit of it. These nutritionists are trying to push, how great white meat is and stuff, but I think good lean red meat for me is as good as anything. But
you're thinking of sales in the next 20 years? Go ahead,
But yeah, look, we take a lot of supplements, straight after pitch. You're handed a shake, you have to get that in you, and that's got 20 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbohydrate, and all this weighed out, and then we get fed at breakfast, and we get our lunch, and then we go home. And look, it's about, like, for me, that some people are looking for what's the magic ingredient? Common sense and eating good local fresh produce.
Common sense, yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
And just really looking after yourself. And that's not to say that we don't, after a game, all the boys are going, they'll go and have something that's maybe deemed as unhealthy for, well, it is nothing deemed, it is unhealthy for you. And you'll treat yourself a bit, but by and large during the week, unfortunately Joe Schmidt is a bit of a control freak, but he's also obsessed with body mass. So he puts us in this DEXA scanner that actually scans us head to toe and measures how much lean muscle you have and how much fat you have. So
no hiding.
Yeah, there is no hiding from that at all. So look, you have to look after yourself. But again, that's not to say that that's all we do and we're obsessed with it. You're educated in the academy as to what not to eat and what to eat, and then it's up to you to make smart choices. And it's like everything else, those that make the smart choices but still enjoy themselves from time to time are the ones that generally push on and are the ones that are probably a bit more committed and move on and get to higher levels.
We're obviously coming in the end, but I'm very conscious and proud of becoming Ireland captain yourself. You played under two iconic captains, and in your opinion, what is it in their makeup that makes them good leaders both on and off the field?
Look, I think both of them on the pitch were just so competitive, so committed. Like, if you take probably O'Driscoll he was nowhere near the fittest person in the squad, far from it. He used to do fitness sessions and he'd be way at the back. Yet if you get the 80th minute in a game that you're winning by a point, he'll be the guy that'll sprint 60 metres across the pitch to make a tackle in the corner when everyone else is too tired to do it.
Breadth of vision, breadth of what's happening
and just will not give up. You know, whenever he doesn't tackle, you know, when you're doing pre-season fitness in the summer, and you know, it's not, if he doesn't make the line, you're not going to drop him. You know, so it's not life and death for him, or sort of perceived life and death. But the thought of losing a moment in a pitch or losing a match was to him, and that's whenever he just would draw on something. Now obviously he has everything else in terms of he sees things, and you know, he's explosive and he's unbelievable skills. Paulie is probably, he's slightly more different in that, you know, it's the same competitive edge, but he is just relentless. He just goes and goes and goes and will not stop, and whether it's training or matches or table tennis or anything, he just goes and goes and goes, to the extent where no one will play any games with him or anything like that, apart from rugby. That's the only thing he get. Even golf, and he doesn't play much golf anymore. Like, he was down to about 4 or 5 handicap at a time, and he's way up now, but no one will play with him now. He's not as good as he used to be, but he thinks he is, and he gets frustrated, and everyone else is useless, and he gives off, and even like swimming, like he nearly drowns. Like, he played a bit of water polo. He used to be a really good swimmer, and like he would drown you in the pool to try to win a point, and you're there, you sort of eventually come up gasping for breath, and you're like, say, Paulie, we should be recovering here, like it's not that serious. Be good is for me, kid. Like,
looking back in your career to date, I mean, who have been the biggest influences on your career and indeed on life?
I think probably in both. Like, it's my family, you know, we are a close family. I think anyone, obviously in this era especially, would know family quite well, and like they have been, and all in different things. You know, you talk about both my brothers in terms of, you know, the standards that they set and the sort of competitive nature that they bred into me, that, you know, sort of that pushed me on in that way. Obviously the support that they now give me as supporters, and my little sister, you know, like you always have to look after your little sister, and she's always the one that rings you up with a smart comment about something or other that you've said. And
Rebecca, I mean, she was also a reasonably good sports person, wasn't she?
Yeah, but you've obviously got your research from my mum then, did you?
I mean, I know Jodie was talking about her, go ahead,
No, look, Rebecca was.
Everybody points back, all that, you know, so I didn't want to...
No, we do slag her, but, you know, like obviously mum and dad, you know, like mum drove us everywhere, brought us everywhere, and looked after us, and dad was there occasionally, and you know, but like on a serious note, like the entire family are really close, and obviously when I met Jodie, and was reasonably young, and you know, I talked about it in my early Ulster days, that it was, you know, it was quite a bit of a wild child.
She's 79,
well,
the old teacher in her, is he?
Yeah, well, if you'd have seen me at school, I was probably unrecognisable as being, I was pretty wild then as well, and you know, she has always been a very calming influence on me, and you know, she sort of has kept me on I wouldn't say the straight and narrow, I don't think it was that bad, but you know, she's been very important to me, and her family circle. And look, for me, the family's been very important. There's been coaches along the way, but they've always come and went, but the family have always been there, they've always supported me, and you know, the only people that you'll ever get a proper honest answer from is your family about how you've played or where you're sitting or what you're doing.
How do you find time to relax, and what do you do?
Well, believe it or not, the farming side of things would be my relaxation. You know, I don't get as much time as I'd like to, and like Dad does, and I know he said that he wouldn't slag me on that BBC programme, but of course he did anyway. But like that is my relaxing time. I enjoy getting out there, spending time with Jodie and the kids. I try to golf. I don't golf very often, and all that happens is I go out thinking, oh, this is going to be lovely and relaxing, and play a few holes, and by the end of it, I don't want to ever play again. I'm going to broken clubs and everything, because you get competitive. But anything like that, sort of just getting away. Like for me, the most important thing is just to get away from rugby. It is a job, and look, I really enjoy it, and like it's still, I think at my sort of age, you get paid for doing it, but there is so many highs and lows. It is so tough at times that if I didn't really enjoy it, I would go away and try to be as successful as someone else, but I still really love it. But ultimately, it is a job, and like any job, no matter how much you like it, you have to find time to get away from it so you can actually realise how lucky you are to do it. And so like it would be the farming, any sport, and just sort of really relaxing.
So looking to the future, what next for Rory Best?
Look, I've just signed this season signed a 2-year deal to stay at Ulster and Ireland. That'll start.
You've had a few lucrative offers maybe in the past, but you've always stayed at Ulster?
Yeah, like there was a couple that we never really explored that much. There was options to go to other places, but look, the RFU and Ulster have always been really good. They look after you the best. They're putting in place already plans for next year to look after me, and it'll something along the lines of 3 games on, 1 game off. Just stuff like that. Whereas you're not going to get that if you go to England or France. They need their pound of flesh and they'll get it. So from that side of things, I've obviously got 2 more years. It would be obviously a big ambition of mine to be able to win something with both teams. But I suppose probably the big ambition of mine would be either this season or over the next 2 seasons to win something with Ulster. I've been
Fingers crossed, next few weeks.
Yeah, it's sort of the one thing that probably feels it is missing. Now, I know I was part of the league team, or the team that won the league in 06 that Simon was captain of, but it just seems so long ago now. It'd be nice just to win something with Ulster. I've been very lucky to have won those couple of things with Ireland, but it'd just be, for me, it'd just be more special again.
And 1989 is a long time ago too, so maybe next year or 2 you don't have the team coming through a bit later. Ladies and gentlemen, Rory Best.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting and exciting interview. Great questions, Feargal, and very comprehensive and relaxed and witty answers, Rory. Really enjoyed them. I particularly enjoyed the piece about the psychological build-up for big games, and maybe we can take some of those tips to the golf course effectively and improve our games this season. We'll see maybe if Dara's free there to come out with his video camera and take some of the good shots and replay them the next day. And we'll have to stand up for our lady member here, Mrs. Best. I don't know your dad, Rory, but I can safely say that you must get some of your competitive instinct from your mum, having played with her plenty of times. So listening to all those wonderful achievements, at least myself and my next speaker can say we have something in common with Rory Best, and that is that we were all made captains in the same year. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to our club captain, who was an Ulster player himself in his day, Mr. John Spars.
Lady Captain, Lady President, ladies and gentlemen, hope you've enjoyed the evening so far. I certainly have. Well done to Rory, well done to Feargal. Thank you very much. I think my first memory of Rory was trailing around the farm, hanging onto his father's overalls. You've seen one, you've seen both. So really, the farming thing was ingrained in Rory from a very early stage. I was lucky enough to play with Rory's dad and his brothers as well in a game in Banbridge one day, and with Gary and Craig. And Craig was the best player. According to Craig. It's a pity Gary hasn't turned up tonight. Because the guy I played with had loads of hair. He's been slagging me all night up there, so I had to get my own bag on him, But yeah, rugby was ingrained in the best in Rory from a very early age. And if you saw Rory run across the pitch, and I watch this nowadays, and I remember his dad running across the pitch as well, much slower, much the same gait as well, so fantastic. Yeah, this is it's been a great evening, and congratulations to the lady captain and Pat Best and all of those people involved in the organisation of this year. And a lot of money is going to charity tonight, and I think it's tremendous. And I give everybody a round of applause.